Hello, everybody. My name is Corey, truly Evil Bob, and you can follow me at Truly Evil Bob on Twitter for our show here, Capes and Lasers, the show about sci-fi, fantasy, and comic books. I am here. I was here every Tuesday, but I'm going to have to change the show. School is starting here at UAA, and I'll be taking classes during my normal time, so it might be a week. I might be out for a week, and then we'll find a new time slot, and we'll do a new show. As always, you can catch me a day later on YouTube. I am Truly Evil Bob on YouTube. The show is Capes and Lasers. And if you want to talk along with me, join the conversation on Twitter, you can do it live right now. So let's get into the show. Well, first, before we do that, here in Anchorage, we missed out on the eclipse. It was eclipse sadness. We were supposed to get a 40% coverage of the sun, and it was rainy and terrible out, and we couldn't see a thing. And we cried. We cried all day because we missed the eclipse. But that's okay. That's okay. There'll be other eclipses in our lifetimes, we hope. We hope we'll make it there. In fact, one will be in Texas in about 7 years. And I have family there, and I'll probably go visit them for the eclipse, and that will be fun. This wasn't my first eclipse. I've seen partial eclipses before, and they're a fun time. They're a fun time. Of course, there are pictures of people looking at the sun, which is a huge no, of course. But hey, what are you gonna do? Including our commander-in-chief. It's fake news. Don't listen to the scientists. Science, remember, they're just lying to you all the time. So, what happened in the news in the sci-fi, fantasy, and comic book news this week? We're going to turn to the Daily Planet. We're going to roll the pluses on the Daily Planet and talk about just that. And, of course, first up is the big thing that everybody's talking about, which is Game of Thrones. We all loved it. And last week, I made a prediction. I said that Jon Snow was going to almost die, only to be saved at the last second by Benjamin Stark, his uncle, coming to the rescue. And that is exactly what happened. I call it, drop the confetti. It was all me. I did it. So, after he fell through that literal plot hole into danger, Jon Snow escaped with the help of Ben Stark. But did that Ben Stark die? He was just covered in zombies. That's kind of how it happens. You know, a really cool character appears and then is just dead. So, well, yeah, I'm giving out spoilers. There's going to be a little more spoiler here. Viserion, of course, was the biggest news that came out of that. Viserion was brought down by the most awesome Javelier of all time, and then brought back to life as a dragon wraith through the White Walker magic. So now the White Walkers have a dragon. And my question is, will this dragon breathe cold breath? That's my biggest question. But I know a man who was super upset by the passing of Valerian, and I'm going to call him up right now. I'm going to give him a little ring-a-ding, and we're going to do a little eulogy, a little live eulogy for him on the air. And we'll see how this works out. Just give me a second. It's coming. Oh, geez. Oh my, the audio is not coming through the
Hey Corey, what's going on, man?
Hey Matt, I hope everybody out there in Radio Land can hear you. First off, happy birthday, my man.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate it.
Well, it looks like the people can hear you. Give me talk a little bit. First off, I want to talk to you about the Game of Thrones that happened this weekend, and you were very saddened by it. Yeah. So Viserion was brought down one of Daenerys's 3 dragons, and you were upset. Can you tell me a little bit about what was going on?
One reason that I was really upset about it was a little bit of the backstory behind Rhaegal and Viserion, where when they were still like kind of growing up and they became a lot bigger than the people that were handling them. Daenerys, when she got to that one city at Essos, she locked Viserion and Rhaegal away, in that dungeon underneath the city for a short amount of time before Tyrion released them. And it just kind of hurts to remember that they're so loyal to Daenerys for such a long time, only to be brought down while trying to help her allies.
So, I got to back off now because I got the audio levels all cranked for you.
Oh, okay.
So this death really hurt you bad because of all of that. I'm sorry to hear that, man. But we all know that any character that you get attached to in the Game of Thrones, they will always die, and sometimes in the worst ways possible. So how are you dealing with that? How are you dealing with post Viserion days here?
Well, considering that a good majority of any likable characters that you come across in Game of Thrones, you will eventually, there is like a short mourning period that you will go through, but you will understandably let it go essentially. Thankfully, they are fictional characters, but it still kind of sucks whenever your favorite fictional characters die off in such a very unceremonious way.
Yeah, you followed these characters for a long time. You've invested in them, and you hope that investment, that emotional investment, pays off, right?
Yeah, it does.
So, what other characters in Game of Thrones has hit you as hard as this dragon's death?
Well, before his revival, it was definitely Jon Snow's that I remember currently that hit me the hardest. And at the moment, I think the only one that was close to Viserion's and Jon Snow's was Oberyn's.
Everybody loved Oberyn, and then he went out, and it hurt a lot of people. So who's your favorite character right now? Who will you not stand to go down in Game of Thrones?
I think that would still be Tyrion.
Yeah.
For all the BS that he's gone through.
Hey, Peter Dinklage has top billing in that show. He is the first name you see when the credits come up is Peter Dinklage. So yeah, that show is him.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the truth. And the other ones I'm still rooting for to stay alive are obviously Daenerys and Jon Snow, along with Drogon and Rhaegar. Or no, not Rhaegar. Rhaegal. That's right, Rhaegal.
Well, well, thanks, Matt. Thanks for calling in, and you have the rest of your birthday. Have a happy one, and I'll talk to you later, man. Thanks for your thoughts.
All right, thank you, Corey. I hope you have a wonderful day as well. Say hi to everyone for me.
I will. So, what is your favorite Game of Thrones character? What is the worst time you had with a Game of Thrones death? I'm at Truly Evil Bob, and we'll talk more about that a little later. I'm sorry for that. I don't know if that was very poor audio quality. I think I heard it pretty well, but it didn't. For some reason, it didn't go through the soundboard on that. I had to put it up to the microphone. Moving on. Let's talk about The Flash. Season 4 is coming up, and they added a new cast member. Katie Stackhoff from Battlestar Galactica. She played Starbuck, if you remember her from the old Battlestar Galactica show. She is going to star in Flash Season 4 as a character known as Blacksmith. And she's not going to be a one-off. She's going to be in multiple episodes, basically feeding the supervillains with interesting technology. She's going to be like a black market, an underground that they can go to for all their cool supervillain stuff. So that'll be interesting. I love The Flash. I think it's the best superhero show on the air, and I hope season 4 is really, really good. I'm looking forward to that. A little later, we'll be talking about The Defenders. The Defenders did come out this past week. My review on that later. Also, what came out this week was the Batman and Harley Quinn animated movie, and I'll be doing a review of that one a little later as well. Back to the news. Captain Marvel. The Captain Marvel movie will be out in a few short years. What are we going to expect from this Captain Marvel movie? Well, the Skrulls. If you don't know who the Skrulls are, they are a race of shape-shifting aliens who are at war with the Kree Empire. They were first introduced in the Fantastic Four comic book. I thought Fox had the rights to the Skrulls and that the MCU couldn't use them, but I guess they found a way. They found a way. They got the Skrulls in the Captain Marvel movie. Their biggest and best warrior is the Super Skrull, which combines all of the powers of the Fantastic Four into one beastie. But yeah, the Skrulls, they are the centerpiece of a storyline called Secret Invasion, where all sorts of key figures in the Marvel universe were replaced by the Skrulls, including Captain America himself. Captain America could be a Skrull right now, and we would not know it. Think about that. Does that erase all the good deeds Captain America has done? They were done by a Skrull. So you don't know who to trust and who not to trust. Anybody could be a Skrull at any time. And yes, even looking at psychic brainwaves does not reveal that they're a Skrull. They found a way around that too, of course. So it was a huge paranoia storyline, but we won't be getting that yet. I think they're going to be building to that. For now, in the Captain Marvel movie, Captain Marvel gets her powers from the Kree Empire, and she will be in the war between the Kree and the Skrulls. If you don't remember who the Kree is, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ronan, the big blue guy with the black face paint, he is a Kree. Also, The Inhumans, a series that is coming out on ABC real shortly, in about a month. They were experiments on humans by the Kree Empire. So the Kree is they're a linchpin in the Marvel Universe. They're very important there. And we will be seeing more of them in the future in the MCU, I am positive. Speaking of the MCU, the Punisher trailer dropped this week. Punisher looks fantastic. I am really excited for this show. I was a bit lukewarm on the Luke Cage, a bit lukewarm on the Defenders trailer, and yeah, you can judge something by its trailer. I'm telling you this right now. If you see a trailer and it looks mediocre, the movie might just be that. Trust your instincts, folks. But sometimes that's not the case. It's not always the case. You can find exceptions to that rule, but yeah, I trust my gut when I look at a trailer. The Tick is coming out this week in a few short days. The freaking Tick! I love this guy. If you don't know who the Tick is, he is a superhero parody. He is a very large, muscular man in a blue costume or blue suit. Of course, we don't know if that's his suit or his body. It's very confusing. And he has little blue antenna, and he's known as the Tick. And his powers are, he is insanely strong and nigh invulnerable. That's it. He's not very smart, which gets him into all sorts of trouble. He's basically like the Homer Simpson of superheroes. It is amazingly hilarious. I've read The Tick. In the Night of a Million Zillion Ninjas is one of the best storylines I've read. It is super hilarious. There at one point in the storyline, there's a bunch of ninjas that are surveilling this house, and they're wearing headbands with two like twigs coming out of it with leaves, and they stand in front of the house, like in their ninja uniform with just these little twigs that they're holding and stuck in their head. And if anybody asks them about that, they're like, "Who are you? We are a hedge." And everybody goes, "Oh, you're a hedge," and they just keep walking by. It's like, that hedge is weird out there. You know, no one notices that they're ninjas. Everybody thinks that they're a hedge. It's hilarious. We are a hedge. Look at that hedge. Honey, did we have a hedge out front before? No, dear. What do you mean? There's a hedge right there. It must have always been there. That is going to be a series on Netflix. I'm super excited for the Tick. I really am. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. So if you have it, check it out. Speaking of Amazon Prime, they are going to make a Galaxy Series Quest. Galaxy Series, they brought on Paul Scheer from Veep to be the head writer of Galaxy Quest. If you don't know what Galaxy Quest was, it was a movie starring Tim Allen, where basically they made fun of Star Trek. It was amazingly hilarious. If you love Star Trek, you already know about it. You'll love it too. If you haven't, it's good on its own. It's super quotable. It's just a treat to watch. And they're making a series on it, which is interesting because Fox this fall is running a series called Orville. The showrunner is going to be Seth MacFarlane, and he's also the starring role in it. And it's the same concept. It's Star Trek, but with funny stuff, insanity happening around them. Seth MacFarlane, back in the day, he always said he wanted to make Star Trek. He wanted his own Star Trek show, and he tried to get it over and over, and they wouldn't let him make Star Trek. So now he's making a Star Trek parody, and I'm super excited about that. And now we got a competing one with Galaxy Quest. We'll see how they both do, how they both stack up against each other. It's weird that they're making the same thing twice. Two different competing companies. We'll see how they do. So last in our news segment, well, before we do that, I've got to take a break. We've got to take a break. We got to run some PSAs. Star Wars. Star Wars is coming up next, so stay right there. We were just getting back to the news that has been happening this week in that realm. I am Corey, Truly Evil Bob. You can join the conversation, talk to me about all the stuff in your mind about our topics at Truly Evil Bob on Twitter. If you miss any parts of the show, you can go on to YouTube at YouTube Truly Evil Bob channel, and you can rewatch the entire thing and get any parts you missed. So we're going to move on to Star Wars, and this is some big news here. Obi-Wan Kenobi movie is in talks to be made. Stephen Daldry is going to be the director. It's not a done deal. They're talking about it. So I don't know. Stephen Daldry, he's made movies like The Reader, The Hours, movies with the before it. So I'm assuming this is going to be The Jedi. The Peacemaker, maybe Star Wars The Peacemaker. I don't know. So there's a lot of controversy about this movie even being made. Obi-Wan movie. The biggest question is, do people want an Obi-Wan movie? Should this Obi-Wan movie be made in the first place? Because if you watch Star Wars and you get the entire story of Obi-Wan Kenobi, you see him as a Padawan, you see him as a Jedi, and then you see him die. Like, you got all of the major points of that. But here's the thing. If you read the comics or the extended universe stuff about Obi-Wan Kenobi, the character is so good. There's got to be, like, I want more stories with Obi-Wan. Stuff that's maybe not connected to the overall big picture of Star Wars, but like an adventure that shows more about the character. The prequels were really, one of the problems with it is there wasn't a lot of character development. We didn't get to pull apart these characters, who they are at their core. Uh, George Lucas cared more about the special effects than story. So this gives us a chance to go back and revisit that character and kind of pull apart his motivations, his mindset, his passions, his driving forces, and what made him go from this proactive Jedi to a hermit, this crazy old man that lives out in the desert. I think this is a good story. I think it's one that I would be happy to watch. That said, last week on the podcast, you heard me say, "Hey, they're coming if they're the podcast, the radio show, if they're going to make a Star Wars movie every year now, every year, that's to me that's going to be like 40 more movies if I die of natural causes." That's a lot of Star Wars. And if they make the same thing, like that same time period and the same characters and the same like stuff over and over and over again, we're going to get worn out. There needs to be new direction, new flavors, new things that need to be inserted into this franchise in order to keep it going. And the question is some people think that we're already at that point. We already need that kind of infusion. People will look back now at the prequels and go, well, at least it was its own thing. At least it didn't put all the old Star Wars stuff in it. And the thing is that's one of the reasons the prequels failed, is because it didn't have that old stuff. We looked at this stuff in Phantom Menace. We were like, oh, it's before Star Wars. So we're instantly greeted by these ships that look way more technologically advanced than anything they had on Star Destroyers. Like they had that, their view screen was this like gelatinous kind of wavy water stuff that appeared in image. And it looked really like cooler than any of the hologram technology we saw in the original Star Wars, but it was in the past. The super shiny, princess, the queen's personal ship that she had looked way more super technologically advanced than anything in the original Star Wars movies. And yet it was in the past. And people criticized George Lucas for this kind of stuff. So what? So now we've gone back to the original Star Wars. We've gone back to X-Wings and TIE fighters and that sort of thing. And now people are like, there's nothing new. Oh, you just can't, you can't help people. You can't, fans are going to be complaining no matter what. That said, I think an ObiWan movie is a good place to go. Han Solo movie's coming out next year. It's got problems. Directorial problems. They're changing the character from a smuggler to a slicer for some reason, even though Han Solo did no slicing in, like, that was left up to R2-D2 to hack doors open and stuff like that. Slicing in Star Wars is their version of hacking. It's their hacker thing, if you didn't know that. So they're going to have like slicing in the Han Solo movie. And, I like the extended universe and I like the concept of slicing. I don't think Han Solo himself should be a slicer. He should have like a slicer friend maybe, but I guess they're going somewhere new, but it doesn't make sense. It's like, why didn't C-3PO or R2-D2 ever say, hey, like, Darth Vader created us, right? That would be pertinent information. You'd think the droids would pipe up at some point in time and say, and they're like, oh, no, C-3PO had his memory wiped. R2-D2 didn't. But we're just going to make more and more plot holes. The more we go back, the more we're going to make more plot holes. I'm just talking myself out of an ObiWan movie. That's all I'm doing here. Another thing that's happening in the Star Wars universe is, if you were a fan of the original Star Wars role-playing game by West End Games, they are re-releasing it. Fantasy Flight Games is putting out the old books in a 2-book box set, coming up in the next couple of months, it is going to be around $40. And I already own the books. I don't need these reprints. But if you ever wanted to try it out, it'll be back on sale, and they are wonderful, lovely books. They were, at the time, George Lucas approved everything in there to be canon by his signature. And that was before he just started letting his license out to everybody. He tightly controlled these books. In them, it has stuff like how the stormtroopers, where they come from, is a closely guarded secret. Because that kind of thing proves that he always had a plan for the prequels. He didn't have the stuff written out, but he had the broad strokes always in his mind. Some people say he didn't, but he actually did. He had this stuff. He actually wanted clones in the first movie, but budget problems and things like that. So these Star Wars RPGs were kind of the first extended universe kind of things. They were the things that opened up the Star Wars universe for that kind of extended universe mumbo jumbo. They got into the technology of it. They got into what is what planet and where and who leads what and what all the alien species are really like and what their biology is and all of that stuff. That was the Star Wars RPG. So if you're interested, it's coming back. And I had a fun time with it. I grew up with it. It came out in 1989, and man, the memories I had with that game. My Squib character. Squibs. They will be in Star Wars. They will be in a Star Wars movie one day, and you will see the awesomeness that is a squib. So let's move on. Let's go into our DeLorean, go back in time to the time I watched something. It is a review. And today's review is, we'll have two reviews today. It'll be the bulk of our show. Our two reviews is Batman and Harley Quinn, and then The Defenders. So we'll start out with something really great, which was Batman and Harley Quinn. It's an animated movie, and it was so good. It is fantastic. Let me tell you, people. If you are a fan of the 1990s Batman series by Bruce Timm, this seems like a continuation of just that. The plot is that Poison Ivy teams up with the Floridated Man, the Floral Man, he's the Floridian. He is a druid from another dimension that is made up of plants, kind of like a treant or an ent from Lord of the Rings, but evil. And their plan is to turn everybody on Earth into a human-plant hybrid. So they will be forced to save the environment because it will be their own lives on the line. That was their goal. And they came pretty close to it. So let's talk about the movie. In order to track down Poison Ivy, they had to grab her old cohort, Harley Quinn, her best friend in the entire world, Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn teams up with Batman to stop Poison Ivy because Harley doesn't want to be a plant person. That's all. So this movie seems just like a continuation from the 1990s Batman. It is done in the animated style of the third season. So if you watch the entire season, you'll know that the art style changed from season 2 to season 3 to be more of a digital style, rather than a hand-drawn style. So, and I really like the old hand-drawn style because they did it on a black paper instead of white paper, and it gave it this really cool aesthetic. But that all changed to make animation cheaper and better. And by the third season, they changed the entire kind of how Batman even looks and how the characters look. But it's still Bruce Timm. And Bruce Timm wrote this. He directed this. He's the guy in charge. And Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman because, of course, you want it when you close your eyes. When I close my eyes and I think about Batman, when I read Batman on a comic book page, Kevin Conroy is the voice I give him. Not Christian Bale. Kevin Conroy, people. And of course, Mark Hamill as the Joker. But the Joker's not in this one. We're only dealing with his henchman, Harley Quinn. Because at a certain point in time, Harley breaks away from the traumatic relationship with the Joker and joins up with Poison Ivy, and they're like BFFs forever and maybe more. They hint at that, but it's never like they don't go into it much. But there's a lot of fan art online that I don't recommend you Google. This show, while it is based on a kid's show, grew up. It is not for kids anymore. There's a lot of sexual humor in it. Nightwing and Harley have a little tryst in it. There's a lot of potty mouth, a lot of swearing. It is humorous. It is extremely humorous. Batman doesn't make any jokes. Batman is like the straight man, the stone face throughout the entire thing. But there are jokes going on all around him at all points in time, and it is just hilarious. You will chuckle. You'll give it a good chuckle. The only real criticism I have for it is its ending. It doesn't quite end. It doesn't end in a satisfactory way. It's just kind of like, well, we beat him. And over. And that's how it kind of ends. There's a post-credit clip of Harley Quinn on a reality show that is amazingly funny. It had me rolling on the ground where, I really shouldn't spoil it for you people. Go watch it. I highly recommend Batman and Harley Quinn, the animated show. You can get it on like iTunes or on Amazon or however you want to get it. I'm sure it's in like at Walmart if you want to get a hard copy for whatever reason. I mean, who buys Blu-ray? Who buys this stuff? Who buys physical media nowadays? So let's get to our second review. The Defenders. The Defenders came out this week. It's only 8 episodes long, so I was able to marathon. I marathoned 7 episodes, and then I watched the last one this morning. And the big takeaway from it is mediocre. It is, you can watch it and it will be fine. It's fine. And that's the best thing you can say about it. I was hoping for something better, and I was disappointed. Because when you have all of this set up for a big team up, you think about the Avengers and how that came off, and how they pulled it off, and how good it was. And it just didn't come off that way for the Defenders. The Netflix Marvel shows have always had this grittiness to it. And a lot of people I've criticized grittiness and hard-boiledness on this radio talk show in comic books. But it's always been in the context of the character. I always said that Batman is fine in a gritty movie. He lives there. That's where he should be. And the same thing with Daredevil and Luke Cage. These characters, they live in the gritty world, and that's where these characters thrive. Also, the Punisher. But the Punisher's not in this. So what are the Defenders? Who are the Defenders? What superheroes came together to create this superhero team? It is Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. Now, if you watched Iron Fist, it wasn't that good either. It was fine. When Iron Fist was kind of like a homeless person trying to get his company back, it was a really good show. And then they just gave him his company like 4 episodes in. They gave him the company without a fight. After fighting for like all that time, they were just like, here. And the entire theme of the show changed and it became terrible. But Defenders picks up where Iron Fist leaves off, where Daredevil second season leaves off, with The Hand. And I have to say that The Hand is one of the weakest story villains in the Marvel MCU. I didn't like The Hand. I loved Punisher season 2 Daredevil season 2 for the Punisher. Yes, Punisher. That's what it was. It was Punisher the show. I loved it for the Punisher. It was the best part of that show. And as soon as they started doing a lecture on The Hand, I I just didn't like it anymore. And that came over into Iron Fist, and then Iron Fist wasn't good. And now it's in the Defenders, and the Defenders is like mediocre. The Hand is not a good villain. I do not like them. So, but that's only one part of this. Of course, Elektra's back. She's been resurrected by Sigourney Weaver's character, Alexandria. Hello, this is Sigourney Weaver, and welcome to the Rescue Aquarium. So, if you watched Finding Dory, you'd find that hilarious, I'm sure. So Sigourney Weaver she's the main villain, and she resurrects Elektra to do her bidding because they're after immortality, and they're trying to dig up this thing in the depths of New York in order to be immortal. And they've run out of their immortality juice, basically. They need more immortality juice, and the only way to get it is to dig into New York City, but they've run into a stumbling block, an impenetrable wall that is opened by the Iron Fist. So the Defenders come together, and they fight the Hand, and they win. Spoilers, they just win. So what went wrong here? Character development, none. There is so little character development. None of these characters change. As when the series begins to the series ends, nothing is different. There is no big revelations. There is no world building. There is no, like, you might, if you skip this entire series and just go back to any of the other series, it'll be like nothing ever happened. Nothing changed. Because nothing did change. Madame Gao, that character, she's in it as one of the villains. Did any of these people die? Did any of the main characters die? No. There were 2 deaths in it. I don't want to spoil who those deaths were. There are 2 real final deaths in it. They don't mean much. And at the very end, they do a fake out death, of course, and it basically means that everybody lived in the end. It's so bad. It's terrible, terrible writing. So let's talk about the acting. It was fine. All of the actors did very well doing their character. I really enjoyed watching Jessica Jones and Luke Cage the best. Danny's character, the Iron Fist, came off as no one likes this character. I don't know how they wrote him. He seems incapable of doing anything. He seems hot-headed. He doesn't want to work with anybody, and yet he's the key to everything. He's like an impetuous child. You just want to spank him and tell him, just do what everybody says. They know more than you. It's frustrating because you want to yell at the television. Luke Cage is amazing in this. He is really good. All of his ideas, all of what he wants to do is super grounded in reality, and you feel for the guy. He comes from a very real place with real families and real issues, and everybody else is like in a weird superhero land. Even Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones tries to be like, oh, this stuff is so blah, 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 and I can't believe this. But in the end, like, that weirdness is her life. That weirdness is her life. And Daredevil is always trying to deny who he is through the entire thing. It's like, oh, this is who I am, but my friends don't want me to be it, so I guess I won't be it, but I guess I will be it. I am frustrated by this show because it had real great potential for it. There was really great potential in this. And now I'm making it sound worse than it actually is. And it's fine. It's okay. If you want to watch it, if you like that superhero stuff, I recommend you go watch it and make up your mind for yourself. If you're not into this kind of thing, I'd give it a pass. Let's talk about the set pieces and direction. So in most of these like Luke Cage and Daredevil, there's these really great gritty set pieces everywhere. And there were some good set pieces in this. There was a ballroom with like weird lights that they fought in. There was this abandoned theater that they held up in. Um, but they didn't make good use of those spaces. I think that the fight choreography fell flat, and because of that, uh, the space that they had, the set pieces that they had, weren't utilized to the best of their ability. Props to the set designers, but the director, I mean, this director needed to figure out how to use his space. At one point in time, they are fighting in this like old rickety elevator, and hand guys are jumping into the elevator from all sides. It's like an open elevator in a giant like mine shaft, and hand guys are coming in and fighting them. And that looked like an awesome opportunity to really show some great close quarter fighting, and that just never paid off. There were no awesome moves. There was no really great. You didn't see like guys falling into the darkness or anything like that. It was fine. It was fine. Just like everything else about this show. It was fine. What can I say other than I'm looking forward to The Punisher? The trailer for The Punisher looks great. It looks all hard-boiled and awesome. And he is a character that thrives in that setting. So, yeah, it is what it is supposed to be. And that is how you make a superhero movie. Make it what it's supposed to be for the type of character you have. That is, I will repeat this till the end of days. So that's it for my show. I am Corey, Truly Evil Bob. I'm on Twitter at Truly Evil Bob. You can talk to me about anything that I've said here. If you miss any parts of the show, I'm on YouTube, Truly Evil Bob there. I have a great day, people.